Chapter 15. Charlie. Simon X5 was idling at the curb when I walked out the front door at 2 o'clock. He was already out the car and smiling when I hit the sidewalk. He changed into a worn jeans and a plain black t-shirt. He followed me around the front and opened the door for me. His mother, the tiny dark-haired tornado, had definitely raised him right. Or maybe it was just a southern thing. The guys I dated in New York had always let valet and drivers get my door, never bothered to do it themselves. I have to admit, the southern gentleman thing is growing on me. I was about to climb in when Simon put a hand on my arm. Where are you from? Oh, shit. Not wanting him to ask me something I have to lie about, I stood on my tiptoes and pressed my lips against his, cutting off the question. One of his arms wrapped around me, pulling me against his body, and his other hand delved into my loose wave. I could feel him harden against me, and my body heated. Damn, the man could kiss. He pulled away but didn't let go. Hi, I said. It was the only word I could latch onto after a few breaths. Simon released me. Hello to you too. Knowing that I was standing next to the car looking like a slack-jawed idiot, I climbed inside and shut the door. A grin tugged at the corner of my mouth when I realized Simon was still standing next to the passenger door, staring at me through the window. Apparently, the kiss had made idiots of us both. I was still trying to rein my body reaction in when Simon finally pulled the SUV away from the curb in the direction of Harriet's home. The silence between us was comfortable, but I needed music to distract me from where my thoughts were headed. I reached out to turn up the radio, and Simon slowed to let a group of pedestrians cross the road. He looked at me, brows drawn, and grabbed my right wrist. What the hell happened? I looked at him confused. I was just turning up. No, your arm. Did you hurt yourself? I followed his gaze to where it rested on the gauze on the inside of my right bicep. Oh, just adding to my collection. His brows shot up. Another tat? My smile died as I studied his expression. Do not tell me he disapproves, because I tell him where to get off. No one told me how to dress, how to wear my hair, or anything else anymore. No one. Yeah, what's this to you? My tone took on a don't fuck with me edge that I acquired shortly after I stepped onto the Greyhound in Atlanta just over a year ago, and some asshole had decided I looked like easy prey. I kneed his balls up into his lungs when he tried to fill me up after I fell asleep on the bus. The memory fueled my temper. Nothing. I was just surprised. One more tat put me too far over the bad girl edge for you, councilman. The words felt like ground glass in my throat. Hey, that's not fair. It's not like that. I saw the bandage and... Anyway, I think the ink is hot, so don't get your back up. My quick rush of anger dissipated at his words. I relaxed into the seat as we started moving again. I felt like a bitch for overacting and being so defensive, especially after he just kissed the hell out of me. Just the thought of the kiss had heat starting to gather low in my belly. So what is it? He asked. He turned down my roll and pulled into a rear empty parking spot across the street. My answer came easily. Why don't you come up and I'll show you? His hands flexed on the steering wheel and he stared directly out the windshield. He nodded as if deciding something. I'll get your door. Simon pushed my bike into the garden oasis and followed me up the spiral staircase to my apartment. I unlocked the door and held it open. When I flipped on the light, I tried to see my place through his eyes. It was tiny, not much bigger than the bedroom I stayed in at his house. The living room was furnished with a love seat angled towards a small fireplace, a side table, and a lamp. The door to my bedroom was ajar, and my double bed looked like it barely fit inside. Calling one corner a kitchen was a bit of a stretch. There was a sink, a foot of counter space, a dorm-sized fridge, and a microwave. A small table and two chairs were tucked into what I grandly refer to as the breakfast nook. In actuality, it was a corner behind the door. It's not much, but I don't need much, and I kind of love it. Simon, Simon finished his visual tour and focused on me, his hazel eyes burning with heat. He seemed even bigger in a small space, and the moment became undeniable intimate. This is probably too forward, he started, but I'm going to come right out and say it. I want you under me in that bed. He nodded towards my room as if the statement needed any clarification. Whoa, that was forward. I swallowed, feeling heat rising to my cheek. Well, hell, I wanted the same thing. I wasn't denying it. I told off my chucks. I guess if you play your cards right. He reached for one of my hands and cut me off, but that's not happening tonight. What the hell? Although this rejection didn't sting as much as him leaving me floating naked in the pool, it still felt like rejection. Way to let a girl down easy, Simon. I rubbed my hand over my face and tugged at the one in his grip. Why did you come up then? He wouldn't release my hand, instead using it to pull me closer. You were going to show me your new tat, and you know why I can't stay. It's not because I don't want to, not because I don't want you. The pieces clicked together in my brain. Damn. Sometimes I was really dense. My face heated again, this time with shame. Oh shit, I didn't even think. Jesus, I'm such a bitch. No, you're not. He twined his fingers with mine. I'm glad you forgot. I just wasn't thinking. Then I'm glad I can make you stop thinking. He rubbed his thumb over the back of my hand. I'm seeing someone, a shrink. So believe me when I say I will be spending the night with you in that bed, but not quite yet. My gaze shot up to his. Seriously? That's good, right? I thought you didn't want to talk to anyone about it. He brought our joined hands to his lips and pressed a kiss to my knuckles. I didn't, but then I found something I wanted even more. Oh? It was the best I could do. I didn't know how to respond to that. It was sort of huge. He wanted me enough to bare his soul to a perfect stranger in hopes of sorting out his issues. It was good to know I wasn't the only one who was feeling something, even if that feeling was dangerous to my very existence. He nodded down at my arm. Can I see the new tat? I untangled my hand from his and peeled away the gauze to uncover a black and gray Lady Justice, blindfolded, holding out her sword and balancing scales. Simon studied it and then met my anxious gaze. Why that? I gently skimmed the outline of the ink with a fingertip. It was a physical manifestation of the idea that had been percolating within me for days, and his confession about the shrink made me even more determined to go after it. He was facing his demons. It was time I did something to face mine. He inspired her. One of his long, blunt-tipped fingers followed mine, tracing the lines, and I can tell he was waiting for my answer. I can only give him a vague one, as usual. Truth, justice, balancing what's owned, all good things to remember. His next question caught me off guard. Where are you from? Because I know you're not from here. Uh-oh. I pulled away and headed toward the fridge. Not going there. You want a beer? Simon is smart, girl. You can't keep avoiding it. Not so fast. You're going to have to tell me eventually, Miss Stone. Ooh, he called her Miss Stoner. That ain't her last name. He cornered me against my sliver of counter space and cupped my jaw. But I'll wait until you're ready. Right now, I'll settle for a taste of you. He pressed against me and my nipples hardened. I met him halfway. twining my arms around his neck and pulling his head down. I was throwing myself wholeheartedly into this change of subject. I bet. You're so damn tall. I pushed up on my tiptoes again, trying to reach his lips, but Simon crouched, wrapped one arm around my back and one under my ass, and swept me up into his arms. I couldn't hold in my girly squeak of surprise. He crossed my minuscule living room and sat on the love seat. I resonated myself so I was straddling him. The position rubbed the center seam of my jeans directly over the growing bulge in his pants. The pressure against my clit had me rocking slightly against him. He didn't know it, but my hood piercing racket up the holy shit, that feels amazing, feeling several notches. My head dipped backward and he took advantage. His full lips kissing along the line of my jaw and down to my neck. His fingers dug into my hips, and all I could think was that I wanted him naked inside me. I reached for the hem of my tank, pulling away so I could get it over my head. God damn, you're beautiful, he breathed. I reached around my back to unhook my bra, but he stopped me with his words, let me. He deftly unhooked it and drew it forward, off my arms. His hands were cupping my breasts as soon as they were unbound. I stand corrected. You're fucking gorgeous. His eyes riveted on my gold hoops. Are they? Can I? I smiled, glad that he was as turned on by them as I was. It's okay. They're a couple months old. You can play. You're the first person besides Delilah who's seen him. I'm fucking honored. He bent his head and circled one ring with his tongue before tugging on it gently with his teeth. Burst of pleasure streaked through me, straight from my nipple to my clit. I groaned and rocked against his erection. He lifted his head momentarily. Could you come from just this? I don't know. Maybe. My words were breathy and didn't sound like they come from my mouth. He chuckled, and the low rumble sound made me rock harder against him. I felt shameless, but it was too damn good to stop. I was so freaking glad I'd taken the leap up on the piercing. Best idea ever. Then let's see what we can do. Simon cut my breast, lifting them to his mouth again. Between his fingers and his mouth, I was bucking against him and coming apart in under a minute. I dropped my head forward, muffling my unintelligible sounds against his shirt. I shuddered, letting the waves wash over me. Holy hell, I didn't know that was possible. When the shivers finally subsided, I realized that in my quest to stay quiet, I might have accidentally used my teeth against his shoulders. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I started to pull away, intent on climbing off him, but Simon's hands cupped my ass and held me in place. That might be the hottest thing I've ever seen. Jesus, Charlie. He pulled me back down against his cock, and the spirals of pleasure started to twine around me once more. If he didn't stop, I was going to come again. It's the piercings, I breathed. His eyes dropped to my nipple, so I elaborated. My hood is pierced too. I couldn't slow my rocking hips, so when you do that, I dropped my head back and let the second orgasm roll over me. Okay, that's the end of chapter 15. All right, so very tasteful. Yeah, and she is going to slip up, and Simon is going to catch it. He already called her Miss Stone, and that ain't her last name. So, and he asking her where she from. She almost slipped up. So, I really hope it don't slip out. Well, if it slip out, it'll be a good conversation for him, right? But she really needs to tell him because, yeah. Okay, so There was no words that I slipped up on, tripped over, or didn't know how to pronounce or knew the definition. So there won't be no definition video. With that being said, I shall see you in chapter 16. Bye.